Hi everyone, this is a video response to VenomFangX's video series called Satan Invented Evolution. In this video, I'm not going to try and debunk his arguments per se. The reason that I don't need to debunk his arguments is because he plagiarizes most of his stuff from other websites, and most especially from Ken Hovind. And the Ken Hovind stuff has been debunked elsewhere before, so I don't need to repeat what other people have already said. What I'm going to concentrate mostly on this video is to try and show you guys where I think that he has used faulty reasoning and where he has set up strawmen. In other words, I'm going to try and show you guys where I think that he has been dishonest. Anyways, let us begin. Let us begin at seeing how VenomFangX starts his video series with.
Welcome back. Got a question for you guys. Do you believe that a frog can turn into a prince?
You can pretty much set the tone for your video series by the first sentence that you make. And the very first sentence that he has made is already a straw man. Do you believe that the frog can turn into a prince? No. This question is misleading in a number of ways. First of all, he said, billions and billions of years, implying that scientists think that the only thing that you need for evolution to occur is time. As if you sit there and stare at a frog long enough, eventually it will evolve into a human being. No, this is not what scientists think. Time is not the most important ingredient of evolution. It is natural selection. In fact, if you watch the rest of his video series and if you watch his previous work, he almost never mentions natural selection, even though the current scientific consensus is that natural selection is the most important mechanism of evolution. So how can you start a debate about evolution without even mentioning natural selection? So in short, by saying billions and billions of years and not mentioning natural selection, he has misrepresented the true position of scientists. But that is not the only way in which this question is misleading. When he said, okay, a frog can turn into a prince, he implies that scientists think that everything can evolve into everything. As if a frog can evolve into a prince, a dog can evolve into a cat, a crocodile can evolve into a duck. Again, this is not what scientists think. Scientists only think that we share a common ancestor with other animals. That is very different than saying that we can evolve into each other. The branches of the tree of life only diverge, they never converge. So this is already two ways in which this one question is misleading, and this is the very first sentence, the very first thing in which he chose to start his video series with. Do you remember that at one point in this video that he mentioned the devil? He said the first thing that came out of the devil's mouth was a lie. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Isn't it kind of ironic? Anyways, let's move on. The next item are the two worldviews, the creationist worldview and the humanist worldview. By the way, this is also the point from which you can clearly see that he is copying Ken Hovind. More specifically, he is copying Ken Hovind's seminar called Age of the Earth. There's a user on YouTube called AKG41470 who has made a video about this, which is just absolutely hilarious, and I'll link it in my video description. Anyways, the two worldviews, the creationist worldview and the humanist worldview. He said, or rather Ken Hovind said, that these two worldviews are polar opposites and they're at war with each other. Well, obviously that's not true. There are people out there who call themselves theistic evolutionists who have somehow found a common ground between creationism and evolution. People like Kenneth Miller, of which I have a book right here, called Finding Darwin's God, and the subtitle of this book is called A Scientist's Search for Common Ground Between God and Evolution. So by saying that it is impossible to reconcile evolution and creationism is simply not true. Next are the four great questions. The four great questions are: who am I? Where did I come from? Why am I here? And where am I going when I die? All I have to say is that whatever the answers to these questions are, it is totally irrelevant to whether or not evolution is true. I mean, take for example the first question: who am I? I'm an earthworm. Does it mean that evolution is no longer true because I will be an earthworm otherwise? No, of course not. If you do say so, then you'll be invoking the appeal to consequence fallacy. So to be honest, these four questions are just a total waste of time. They cannot be used as evidence whatsoever. However you answer this question, it will not change reality. So I think the only reason why Hovind put this here in the first place is just to stroke his audience ego. Basically, he's asking you guys, do you want to be a human created by the all-loving God? Then choose God. Or do you want to be a worthless scum, piece of shit that washed up on the beach? Then choose evolution. So yeah, a total waste of time, and in my opinion, just one big marketing ploy. Next, he talked about Hitler's quote, which is, if you tell a lie long enough, loud enough, and often enough, people will believe it. And again, what an irony. I mean, how can VenomFangX be so sure that this only applies to evolution and not to Christianity? I mean, think about it. What has been talking longer, louder, and more often? Is it the Christians or is it the evolutionists? You be the judge. Let's move on. Next, he talked about science books and about the age of the universe, and that teachers only think that the age of the universe is billions of years. They don't actually know it. The arguments that he used is basically like this. Were they there? Have they seen it with their own eyes? No? Then it's not science. He talked about it as if direct eyewitness testimony is the only kind of evidence that is allowed in science. Well, obviously that's not true. Also, he mentioned that the age of the universe is increasing millions of years every year. This is one of those things that I just detest about creationists. I mean, they just love to abuse the humility of science. I mean, scientists will be the first scientists will be the first to admit that they're wrong. Scientists will be the first to say that everything we know right now is just the best that we can know, the best that technology can offer us. I mean, in the future, when new technology is available, of course they might throw our current worldviews upside down. I mean, scientists will never ever pretend to know what they don't know. But that's only normal. I mean, who on this earth can be so arrogant as to claim that they already know everything there is to know about the universe? No, you cannot say that. This is honesty. This is humility. I mean, this is a virtue. But creationists just love to abuse this forthcomingness of science. I mean, and to be honest, it is just despicable. I mean, it is just despicable to abuse the goodwill of your opponent like this. Anyways, let us continue. Next are the 6 different definitions of evolution. He said that the word evolution is a very tricky word because it has 6 different definitions in it. And the 6 different definitions are cosmic, stellar, chemical, organic, macro and micro evolution. Okay, first of all, it is extremely misleading to call these definitions because these are not definitions of evolution, these are types of evolution. By calling these definitions, it is the same as saying that a Ferrari, a Mercedes, and a BMW are definitions of cars. Because these are not definitions of cars, these are types of cars. But what is so wrong in calling these definitions as opposed to types, which is what they truly are? I think that Hovind was setting up the stage for the following. He was trying to show his audience that scientists will show you examples of microevolution and then try and pass it off as evidence for the other 5. And if you use the word type, then this story becomes kind of unconvincing. But if you use the word definition, then it seems, yeah, indeed, they're trying to fool us. Because the word definition implies something official. It implies something intrinsic, far more than the word type does. But the truth is that the evidence for the Big Bang Theory, for the abiogenesis, for the life cycle of a star, and for nuclear fusion has nothing to do with the evidence for microevolution. I mean, it is not as if a cosmology professor will show his students how a bacteria evolved immunity to antibiotics and then try and pass it off as evidence for the Big Bang. I mean, that is just totally ridiculous. Anyways, this is the end of my first video. The next thing that VenomFangX would do is to try and debunk each of the definitions of evolution individually, and I'm going to make one video for each of them. So stay tuned for more, and thank you for watching my video.